Fox News contributor Liz Peek joins me now. Liz, fascinating piece. Tell me more about the point that you're making.
Well, look, nature abhors a vacuum, and the vacuum is the leadership and the policies of the Democratic Party. What do they stand for? What do they want to do differently than Kamala Harris promised in the 2024 election? That really is their issue. They have not come up with a program which addresses the concerns of the working men and women of this country. And so instead, you have now a snake oil salesman who's making all kinds of promises that he cannot possibly keep and promoting theories and policies that actually have already been tried in New York and San Francisco, the two most expensive cities in the entire country, and have driven costs through the roof. So look, and there's nothing intellectually coherent about what Mamdani's talking about. And by the way, Bernie Sanders coming out from Mamdani is totally expected. He's on the left of his party. But he should know better than anyone that the Democratic machine does not want a progressive. He won the initial primaries, remember, in 2020. He was ahead. He was running for president. He almost got to be the candidate, but they pushed him aside for Joe Biden. So in a city, that's probably not going to happen. But the reality is Democrats know that the majority of the country don't like what Mamdani is selling. So they're going to try and keep his influence limited, presumably to New York. Maybe he'll have a similar kind of candidate in Minnesota and San Francisco. But running the country, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to hurt Democrats to align with this guy who is so unbelievably left-wing.
So, Liz, what do we make of Minority House Leader Hakeem Jeffries? You have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, the majority of the Democratic delegation here that represents New York City. None of those folks are endorsing Mamdani. Before Election Day, do you expect that they will?
Oh, maybe because Chuck Schumer is scared to death of being primaried from the left by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Kathy Hochul is worried that she's going to lose in the next election because her policies have been such a miserable failure, and she isn't going to want to lose the youth vote. Unfortunately, polling shows that an awful lot of young voters are very attracted to this guy and attracted to socialism. I mean, it's pretty astonishing. The ignorance of people that are thinking, oh, yeah, buses can be free, childcare can be free, rent caps work. None of these things is true. So, I mean, at some point, I wish there were going to be a debate because Andrew Cuomo is a terrible candidate, by the way. And the only reason Mamdani is doing as well as he is that Democrats did not put up a better challenger to him in the primaries. Cuomo is very unpopular. He was a terrible governor. He put through a lot of progressive policies. They're actually quite like
and you've got a Mayor Adams with a 20% approval rating, which is like the lowest in 50 years. So, yeah, the candidates are not great options right now. I want to call for this full screen of Charlie Gasparino, who wrote this column. Our Charlie Gasparino in the New York Post. It says, take the nuclear option. Let Mamdani win the mayoral race so New York City can start over from scratch. Quote, why not expedite the process and teach people who think leftism works that it doesn't, particularly when you chase out all the non-leftists who pay the bills. And to that point, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida posted this on social media, quote, ladies and gentlemen, the Palm Beach Realtor of the Year, showing Mamdani, Senator Sanders, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Liz, your final reaction to both of those points, that Mamdani is going to be driving all of these rich folks that would pay for all of these ideas out of the city.
That's totally right. And that's been happening already, Brian. It's only going to get worse. It's what was a trickle, what was a stream is going to become a torrent. As for Charlie's idea, that sounds like someone who doesn't have any kind of stake in New York, because it'll take years, possibly a decade, for New York to recover from going even farther left, from even more taxes being put on businesses and on the wealthy people who can indeed exit the city and go elsewhere. I think it's a terrible idea. And honestly, kind of whimsical and really not workable and very injurious to businesses and people in the city.
Well, Liz, your op-ed really put the finger right on the main point here, which is this is all about the future of the Democratic Party and what seemingly is a void of leadership there and not really understanding which way to go. And right now, Mamdani and Sanders and AOC are feeding off of that void, and successfully so, if you look at the crowds and whatnot. So, Liz Peek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.